Good evening, Fernwood. It's your happy oddball friend Neil here to happily watch an oddball soap opera with you from the 1970s, and that would be Mary Hartman. Mary Hartman. Today's episode comes to us from 1976, May 25th to be exact. And before we begin, I think it's time to recap what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday? We start with a post-coital scene between Dennis and Mary just outside of Dennis's hospital bed, maybe having sex with a man within a few days of him having a heart attack isn't the most judicious thing, but they were swept up in the moment. Dr. Furman comes in afterward and makes clear to Dennis that having sex right after a heart attack, not a good idea. Most of the rest of the episode is various main characters looking for advice, starting with Kathy, who goes to a priest and says that she wants to become a nun. The priest, luckily, suggests that becoming a nun based on simply having had a bad experience or two with some men in your life is probably not the best idea. He urges her to explore perhaps becoming a weather girl or a meteorologist, as they might be known nowadays. She gets excited about that idea. Maybe we'll see more soon. In the next scene, we go to the factory where Tom and George seem to have a somewhat of a détente between them since they have been at odds with regard to factory stuff. But now that Tom and Mary have separated, or Tom has left the home, he's staying with Howard and Ed McCullough and Betty, of course. I forgot that she's also part of that equation. He's staying away, but now that George sees Tom and Mary have so much trouble that Tom has moved out, well, he feels somewhat compassionate towards Tom, and they make some of a connection there. After that, we see a scene between Mary and Bob Gilroy, who maybe wasn't the best person to advise Tom way back when, after Tom and Mary were starting to reconcile their relationship after May Olinsky's VD scare. Of course, Mary reveals that she had sex with Dennis in his hospital bed, and that sets off Bob Gilroy. And just like he did with Tom, he judges the heck out of Mary and leaves pretty much without listening to anything she has to say. Other than that, we have a little scene with Heather, who's roller skating while kind of trying to figure out what she's going to get out of the breakup of her parents' marriage. She kind of does that a lot. And we hadn't talked about it, but we know that Ed and Howard McCullough, they are not actually brothers. They appear to be living as lovers, with Howard's mother Betty there acting as kind of the beard for the situation. Howard wants to keep things secret, and Ed is very, very eager to just come out of the closet and live an honest life. So those are things that maybe will come up. We'll see. Loretta and Charlie, we didn't see yesterday. Maybe we'll see them again. There's kind of churchy stuff going on that we could talk about, but I think it's better to just start this episode.
Mary Hartman! Mary Hartman!
How long do you think Tom will stay?
Look, Howard, the guy's been suspended without pay. He can't afford to go to a motel.
Well, he ought to go home. I know Mary wants him to.
Yeah, but he's still mad at her.
How long can a guy be mad at his wife no matter what she did? If he loves her.
So, we got a lot of problems.
They aren't the only ones.
Look, Howard, just accept what you are.
You think that's all it comes down to, don't you?
I do. All we have to do is come out of the closet.
There's more to it than that, Ed. Oh, look, be a little patient, will you?
Think I've been patient? Hey, guys, grab some weights. You can use a workout.
I could use a beer or more. Here, help yourself. I just got back this morning. Okay?
I'll take you up on them after 50 push-ups. Sit-ups.
Hey, look, Tom.
Oh, What?
I saw the plant psychologist leaving your house when I came home today.
Gilroy?
Yeah.
What? What's up?
I think Mary's trying to figure a way to square things.
Yeah? Well, maybe I ought to call her. What do you think?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, honey, it's Daddy.
You coming back?
Well, honey, we'll see about that. But meanwhile, you and me have a date for after school tomorrow, right?
To my platform series.
Whatever you say. Listen, sweetheart, let me talk to your mother, okay? Is she around?
Well, yeah, she's around, but you can't talk to her because she has an awful headache and she's lying down.
Oh, well, okay, well, then, well, tell her that I called when she gets up, okay?
Okay.
Okay, honey, I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.
What are you doing?
Looking for words. Penny Balassa says you get them when you tell lies.
Honey, you didn't tell a lie. You told a half-truth. I really do have a headache. Where you going?
To finish my homework.
Tom?
Mrs. Hartman?
Yeah?
This is Dr. Furman.
Oh my God, is anything wrong? Did Dennis have a relapse?
No. I'm just taking a precaution, Mrs. Hartman, practicing a little preventive medicine.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, I'd like to suggest that you curtail your visits to Sergeant Foley for the remainder of his hospital stay.
Why?
Because, Mrs. Hartman, one more incident like today and it could be curtains. Your visits are hazardous to his health. Have a good evening.
It's those buttons on those beds. I'm sure of it.
But of all the vitamins in your daily minimum requirements, well, vitamin L's most important to you. Cause if you don't get enough vitamin love, oh well, your heart'll break right in two. Yeah, if you don't get enough vitamin.
I don't mean to criticize or nothing, but don't you think maybe you could put just a little more,
Pizzazz?
yeah, into it, right?
Yeah, no problem. But, I'm just kind of a little bit rusty,
Could it be that you're singing too many darn hymns?
Charlie, I will not have you cussing out hymns, hon. Even though the tunes on some of them aren't that hot.
I'm not cussing out hymns, but I am cussing out what they're doing to you. They're throwing you off making good country western hit music.
Well, Charlie, you know what Reverend Jimmy Joe said, and he is a reverend of the gospel. And he said maybe I ought not to make that record.
Which is an opinion that I guarantee that kid, that youthful reverend of the gospel will change just as soon as his daddy explains to him how you're going to give the royalties to the Worldwide Missionary Center and the Condos for Christ.
Charlie, there you go, distorting the facts again, huh? Now, that is not what Merle said. He didn't say he'd make Jimmy change it. He said that he would ask Jimmy to rephrase the prayer question to the Lord.
And I'll bet, with all the money involved, honey, that the answer is bound to come back yes.
Well, I'm just not going to argue with you about this now. Otherwise, we're going to miss Fernwood tonight, and I don't want to see it.
I wouldn't want to miss that.
I knew that you'd be anxious to see little Jimmy Joe. He's going to preach on, and talk about the World Missionary Center today.
Well, we're back from those commercials. We know how you hate them, but we do hope that you do stop in at Lee Vine's Drapery Store. And I am here with the youngest evangelist preaching in America. At least, we think he is. Little Jimmy Joe Jeter, who is going to be appearing right across from the fairgrounds in just a few weeks, just as soon as he can get his permit cleared with the city. So, hello there, Jimmy Joe.
And God love you, Mr. Stanley, for them kind words.
Jimmy, I'm sure that a lot of our viewers out there have a lot of questions that they would like to ask an 8-year-old preacher, but since they are there and I am here, I'll do the asking. Like, all right, how did you get started, Jimmy?
Joe?
Oh, of course.
Well, it all started, Mr. Stanley, when I was 3.
Oh, years old.
That's right. My mom and dad had just taken me on a walk through the grounds of the Goody Bible College, back in Breslin, Missouri. And I said there's more here than meets the eye.
3 years old. I mean, that's amazing. Amazing.
And I said I could feel the call of all those good brothers and sisters.
At 3 years old.
And I knew right then and there, I knew I had to preach.
Well, no offense, Jimmy,
Joe?
but my brother, well, actually, he is my twin brother, is a minister right here in Fernwood, the Reverend Harold Standfast. And, oh, yes, well, you see, now I changed my name to Stanley because it seemed a little more showbiz. So much for behind-the-scenes info. Jimmy, getting back to my brother, now he is a very dedicated man. But now I don't believe that he got his calling until he was 18 or 19 years old.
Mr. Stanley, have you ever heard the words, "And a little child shall lead them"?
No, I don't believe I have. Oh, you mean the Bible? How forgetful of me. Of course.
Well, I'm a little child, and I'm going to lead them as far as they can go.
Well, I bet you are.
In fact, if I could say a few words to your audience right now.
Oh, well, listen, we'd all be very moved, I'm sure.
Job 14, verse 1, man that is born of woman is a few days and full of trouble. And I say to you, hallelujah, trouble ain't the half of it. There's sin in the X-rated movie. There's perdition in the massage parlor. There's damnation of the soul while staring into the face of John Barleycorn. You sinners out there, you know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you because your trouble is you don't see sin in the places of sin. You don't see the devil when you're out doing the devil's business because newspapers tell you you can't get away from it. And television tells you it'll give you a wider smile and less underarm stain. And your neighbor tells you it's fun, brother, fun. That's right, fun. While your soul is already on the road to hell, that man or woman, as the case may be, is whispering in your ear that it's hip, that is groovy to go against the Lord. But you know in your heart, there's no one groovier than God.
We will be right back after this message from Wardlow's Roofing and Storm Drains.
Well, it isn't that we don't love having Tom with us.
Kathy, stop moping.
Mother, I'm not moping.
Well, actually, she has been moping ever since yesterday when they told her it would take her 6 years to become a nun.
I beg your pardon?
5 years, and that's if I was Catholic and if I was cut out for it, and they don't think I am.
Oh, but you're so young and pretty.
Yeah, and Father DeMarco's so young and handsome.
But he doesn't want to become a nun.
So, I suppose he's been getting on your nerves, huh?
Tom?
Kathy, what a terrible thing to say.
Well, I mean, he's been so moody lately after the breakup with Mary, which is only natural.
Tom is not moody.
Well, it's just that since my Howard has become so friendly with Mary, I can see how much Tom would miss her. I mean, after all, they still are so much in love. Don't you think?
Oh, of course. They're married.
Well, I wouldn't lay odds on a divorce.
Now, Kathy, I will not have you talking that way.
What way? I mean, after Dennis and his heart attack, I wouldn't be surprised, that's all.
Now, that is just being spiteful. Hush.
Oh, well, I am not being spiteful. It's just like Trudy Winslow on Hope for Yesterday.
Oh, I hated that show. They kept changing mothers, and they were all too fat.
Yeah, well, you see, remember that show where Trudy was cheating on Roy?
Uh-huh.
With Derek?
Uh-huh.
Mary didn't cheat on Tom. She said she didn't.
Well, I know, but she was in that man's apartment. She did tell Howard.
She did?
Oh, yes. They're very close.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, see, she was in love. Trudy was in love with Roy the whole time she was with Derek, and nothing ever happened, of course. And then she realized that she didn't love him anymore. That's when she went to Pittsburgh with Derek. Does anybody want any Fritos?
No, thank you. I thought it was Ypsilanti, where his father had a hardware business.
No. It's Pittsburgh because he wanted to become a symphony conductor.
Oh, I don't think we should be talking about Mary like this. Of course, Betty, if you could see a divorce in her future.
Oh, well, I'm afraid that would be confidential, Martha, and I really wouldn't want to discuss it without her permission.
How about some religious conversions, like maybe me becoming a nun?
Well, I suppose I could check.
Oh, now, don't tell me anything bad, because I don't want to know.
But we always try to find the most positive aspect.
Okay.
Now, let me see. Oh. Uh-huh.
What?
Well, there's this sudden burst of notoriety on your line of the liver, which is sometimes an alternate for the line of fate.
Where?
Right here, see? And then there's this star on the Mount of Mercury, which of course is communications. Have you ever considered television?
Have I ever considered television what?
Well, being on it, of course.
That's incredible. I mean, that's really incredible.
Well, I would definitely say that you are somehow going to be connected with television, and it is all going to come through the intercession of a dark-haired young man.
A dark-haired young man?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. She is the wisest woman.
I know.
Did real good on the tube tonight, son.
Thanks, Dad. I didn't forget nothing.
No, you didn't forget nothing. You looked real handsome.
You looked handsome, too.
Did you wash out your dirty socks?
Yeah. And I put Kleenex around my neck when they did the makeup, so I could wear my shirt against Mark for the Rotary luncheon, just like you told me.
You all ready to give your benediction?
Oh, sure. I'll figure I'll give him a little Jeremiah to start out with, then sort of slide into Thessalonians.
Good. Now you remember now tomorrow to be sure and call all those gentlemen sir and tell them you're just a regular kid, except when you're preaching.
I will, except
Except what?
nothing. Nothing.
Come on now, son. This is your dad you're talking to. We don't have any secrets.
Well, if I'm just a regular kid, how come I can't do any regular kid stuff, like baseball and watch television?
But we don't have a television in this room.
But the motel manager said we could have had one.
Well, sure, we could have had one for another $5. I don't want to hear any more about that.
Okay, then how about baseball? That kid back in Terre Haute said I could have joined their sandlot.
Jimmy Joe, there is no room for a sandlot in the pulpit. You know that. And you know you enjoy preaching the word of the Lord.
Well, kinda.
Up there and shouting all that hellfire and damnation in front of them dumb sons.
Dad, you know you're not supposed to cuss.
See there, you got the spirit built right into you.
Yeah, except sometimes I just don't like to hear bad words. Not because I got the cough.
Don't contradict me, son.
I ain't contradicted.
That's a contradiction right there. I just don't have any more of that.
Okay then, let's get a room with the TV so I can watch Little House on the Prairie.
You trying to rile me up?
No, I'm just tired of preaching or pretending I'm a regular kid when you won't let me do nothing regular.
I'm going to give you a regular boot in the bottom if you don't let up.
Then I'll go to no Rotary lunch and I will give no benediction.
You will if I say you will.
Won't.
All right, come here, Jimmy Joe.
No, I won't.
I'm going to tan your hide.
You can't. I'm a reverend.
I'm going to reverend your rear end. Now, when your father says jump, you better jump, boy.
My father's in heaven and he wants me to watch
Your
Little House on
father
the
is
Prairie.
in the Bide-A-Wee Motel right here, and he's getting plenty angry. Now, come over here.
You stink! Oh, no!
You're going to do what the Worldwide Missionary Crusade and yours truly says to do.
Ow.
This really isn't necessary.
Oh, you mean the cup?
The coffee.
Oh, I just thought it would be nice.
Why don't you just go ahead and tell me about your problem?
What problem?
problem you called me about on the telephone.
Oh, that problem?
About the man in Fernwood receiving who was not your husband.
You mean with the cardiac thing?
With whom you had relations.
Shh. Please.
I thought you said your daughter was visiting with her grandmother.
Yes, I did, yes.
And your husband is no longer cohabitating with you, I believe.
The walls have ears.
I see. Now, about this man.
It was really sweet of you come over. I mean, I'm not a regular churchgoer, but I do remember when you were here for Leroy Fetter's funeral, and you were just so helpful with the hors d'oeuvres.
Thank you. It was a memorable occasion.
Do you want to talk about Dennis?
I beg your pardon?
The cardiac patient?
With whom you had relations. Yes.
Well, I just wanted you to know that the reason I went over there to see him was not for the reason that you think.
Of course.
I mean, I went over there to bring him flowers and to say goodbye to him.
But instead, you said hello.
In a manner of speaking.
What manner?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand you.
I was just asking how the event took place.
Oh, well, it was just in the, normal way.
In the bed.
Yeah, the bed has, 7 positions, but you can get it to lie flat. You know?
And this was a private room?
Oh, of course.
I just thought perhaps...
No, perhaps. I mean, this was a private moment, not a public party.
Of course. And did you turn off the monitoring equipment before you got into bed?
You don't mean the television cameras were watching, do you?
No. The monitoring equipment for the patient's heart.
You don't mean that the nurses were watching to see if his rates went up, do you? I mean, were they doing that? That would be so humiliating. Oh, no, that's impossible. That couldn't have been, because this was several days after the heart attack. I mean, I just don't think that he was turned on. I mean, I think he was turned on.
Apparently.
But I just don't think he was hooked up.
Mrs. Hartman, I'm sorry to ask you all this.
You find this disgusting, don't you?
Not in the slightest. I just wonder how this particular idea came up. After all, the location is somewhat unusual.
Could I ask you a question? When do we get to the part where you grant me,
Absolution.
Yeah, absolutely. I would really appreciate that part.
Yes, but how can there be absolution if we don't know the depth of the transgression?
But we do.
And not in detail.
Oh. Well, could you, like, maybe if you couldn't grant me absolution, could you give me a little forgiveness?
Mrs. Hartman, it's always better to make a truly clean breast of it. How long were you in the room?
I don't remember.
Were you interrupted by nurses or other patients?
No, but we had a chair propped up against the door handle.
In a hospital, with a cardiac patient on a bed with 7 positions. Perhaps you'd like to join our marriage encounter group. I know quite a lot of the couples would be fascinated.
No,
yes.
I couldn't do that.
Oh, or perhaps I could counsel you privately.
Actually, you see, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for, you know, like a little absolution and a little forgiveness and just a little comfort thrown in, you know, if you could do it. You know, if it's comfortable for you.
Mrs. Hartman, I'm afraid that is something you'll have to find for yourself. What I can offer you, basically, are alternatives. Our Ladies Softball League, the bake sale for the new rectory window.
That's fine. That would be just fine.
We get a look again at Ed and Howard working out. Tom walks in with some beers and is urged by Howard, who really wants him not to be there so he can keep a secret, to call Mary. Heather lies for Mary, and the thing that hit me about that, I mean, obviously it's very clear that she was lying, but usually the punishment that Mary has for Heather for anything is to just go and do her homework. And Heather's response after having lied to Tom, lied to her father about what was going on with her mother, is to say she's going to go do her homework, which is really the most human response I think I've ever seen Heather have for anything. So I have some empathy for the young lady who's usually more concerned with whether she can get platform shoes or, if she's going to have boobs or something. Then we see into Loretta and Charlie's life. Loretta has been practicing vitamin L, but not performing as snazzily as maybe she had before. Maybe her heart's not entirely in it. I'm very curious to see what is actually happening with her. And there does seem to be some conflict because Charlie is very tuned against this church for good reason, as we will see, or as we did just see. And then a little scenelet between Kathy and Martha and Betty. And Betty, being the fortune teller in a fictional world that she is, seems to be giving advice that is immediately pertinent to things that we've seen already. We know that Kathy is interested in exploring the television world, especially since she got that idea just last episode. And Betty, of course, is bringing up that idea again. Maybe it's the equivalent of plot armor as far as how she is so accurate with the things that she happens to be talking about. I'm not sure. Maybe there's something real underneath this in terms of a fictional sense. I guess we'll find out if there's anything more to that. We see a little bit with Mary and the other priest, the one who was there for Leroy Fetter's funeral, who I will remind you, if you weren't there when we were there last time, is the same actor who was the farmer in the movie Babe, and also the chief of police in LA Confidential. I think that was his role. But basically, glad to see that guy back. And then we see again into, oh yeah, I forgot to mention this, the whole Jimmy Joe Jeters thing. His televised appearance there was just really kind of terrifying and adorable at the same time. That was my take on it. And then seeing him back at his hotel room, apparently before televisions in hotel rooms was seen as standard. But to see that he is in what I call an abusive relationship with Merle Jeter, yeeps. That's, I guess, a whole thing, because I think Merle Jeter is going to be with us for a long time. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Jimmy Joe, but apparently he is not happy with the life that he has been placed on. So that there is the May 25th, 1976 episode of Mary Hartman, Mary Hartman. Thank you for coming along, and we will see you tomorrow night in Fernwood.